Well, I suppose sentiment souring today on the markets. Yesterday we actually saw emerging markets rally across the board, and the day before South Africa's market slipped into the red yesterday slightly. But I mean, is there anything to take away from what's taking place in the markets right now? Is it more of the same?
More of the same, and you know, we've been saying now for quite a few months that I don't really think you're going to get a big change in this unless and until the fundamentals start looking an awful lot better. And wherever you look, whether it's in Europe, whether it's in the US, we saw an employment report coming out of the US today, wasn't wonderful. You know, whether it's in the Far East with India, for example, having its downgrade a couple of weeks ago in terms of its outlook, whether it's China, wherever you look, there isn't any really good, sustainably good news. So as a result, you know, you're going to get good days and you're going to get bad days. This is a particularly nasty one. I mean, it's just red all over the place.
And Steinhoff is the stock that escaped it, but we know Steinhoff is a stock that has been selling off.
Steinhoff is an interesting one in the sense that, you know, it's not a particular institutional favourite, and yet, you know, there are quite a few institutional fund managers out there who look at Steinhoff and realise there's actually good, deep value in this company. So I suspect on a day like today that Steinhoff isn't going to fall as much as others, because it does have a lot of good intrinsics.
Do you believe that? Are you buying into that story? Because, of course, there's still that pending European listing, as you say, could be unlocking value on that end.
Yeah, I mean, the European listing will presumably will just be its European interests that are listed. But nevertheless, you know, I think the Steinhoff story is actually very good. The model is very good in terms of manufacturing in relatively low wage environments in Eastern Europe and selling into predominantly countries like Germany, you know, which isn't necessarily having such a bad time. So I think...
Yes.
Well,
are we allowed to say that?
Yeah. But, you know, I think for the time being, Steinhoff looks very, very good indeed. And it'll be very interesting to see what takeaways we get from a European listing. Will that help the South African listing? There shouldn't necessarily be too much of a relationship, because we're talking about having, you know, different aspects of the business in each one. But nevertheless, I think if we get a premium listing, a premium rating in Europe, it might well do something for the rating in the Joburg market.
Sasol's share price is down 2% today, even though Sasol came out with their Q3 update trying to reassure the market earnings in 2012 will be higher than the earnings that we saw in 2011. And we know really those earnings shot the lights out. So why is the market not buying the story? Is it the oil price? They're just not buying the story that they're able to make money as this oil price has fallen off a cliff?
I think there are a number of reasons. I mean, when the share price was close on 400 rands when they came out with their actual results a few months ago. Up 80% in the markets. It's been going one way in terms of the share price. Look, I think we're looking at a situation in the US particularly where fracking has really taken off, and you're getting gas, which is obviously an alternative to oil, looking at an awful lot cheaper, you know, as far as the US market is concerned. You're looking at oil inventories being somewhat higher than one would have expected this time of year. That's not helping either. And of course, obviously the big factor here is the dollar oil price. It just keeps on going lower and lower. So you put all that together, and sentiment towards Sasol, no matter how good the actual results are at this point in time, is largely negated. And it's a great pity. Look, at some point in time, Sasol is going to stop going south. I've got no doubt about that. And it looks like very, very good
How much further
indeed.
can it fall from here? Because remember when we were talking about 400 Rand becoming the new floor for Sasol, and of course, 340 Rand today?
We've got a price target around about 455. So and that's why I say we see the value in this thing, undoubtedly. So it's perhaps not really relevant as to how far it can fall. At these levels, it's offering, you know, fundamentally good value.
Yeah, well, if you buy into that story, and as you say, that's what a lot of people are saying. So wondering who's selling off this stock, as you say, very much moving, though, in line with that oil price.
Definitely.
What about SAB? Because that's an interesting story, because there has been some more talk of consolidation in the beer sector. InBev or Ambev looking to buy up the rest of its stake in that Mexican brewer Modelo. How does this shake up the global beer industry? Yeah,
I mean, that was a relic from the Anheuser-Busch acquisition, which was made about 5 years ago. The Busch family, who largely controlled Anheuser-Busch, even though they were not by any means the majority shareholders there, they had a bad relationship with the owners of Modelo. And Modelo effectively put a poison pill in place, which didn't allow them to ever buy more than 50%. That has changed over the years, and they've got a far more enlightened view towards the new owners, InBev. And that being the case, InBev has now digested the Anheuser-Busch acquisition. It's now looking to make more acquisitions. This is going to cost them $10 billion. This is a big acquisition in anyone's terms.
That's a large chunk of money, you know, and surely would have, you know, SAB Miller executives sitting up and taking notice.
Well, I mean, that's roughly the same size as the Foster's acquisition that SAB made earlier in the year. You know, so a lot of people have suggested, well, not a lot of people, a few people have suggested that in the course of time we will see a bid by InBev for SAB Miller. I suspect it could come at some point in time. Not in the foreseeable future, but the very fact that they're able to make a big acquisition like this not so long after having digested Anheuser-Busch tells you that you know, the company's fundamentally sound and it's got a voracious appetite.
Well, that's an interesting one to track. We'll, of course, be doing that as this develops, the story develops. That was Chris Gilmour, investment analyst from Absa Investments.